Excellencies, distinguished guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to address you as Chief Sustainability Officer of Commercial International Bank, Egypt's largest private sector bank. While it would have been my pleasure to join this valuable panel in person, I wish this recorded message communicates CIB's approach regarding water finance or at large adaptation finance. Over a year ago, I contributed to a panel hosted by Islamic Development Bank where I shared how CIB successfully issued Egypt's first green bond and the system transformation we had to go through to be able to fund climate projects, especially food system projects. After the panel, I had an unforgettable discussion with a renowned figure who told me that the Arab region can feed itself. Precisely, Sudan can feed the Arab region and Africa if finance is available. He graciously shared with me a comprehensive study, which in turn I shared with a competent executive at CIB. She went through it and her answer was, it's a great vision, insightful and interesting information. However, the project is not bankable. I couldn't forget this stance. And ever since, I was very much engaged in a profound reflection on the situation. As a matter of fact, we are living in a global financial system whereby there is a critical gap between adaptation finance needs and global investable assets, which is the supply side. So there is a mismatch between the demand and the supply side. Why is this the case? Because adaptation finance in food, agriculture, water, resilience projects are conventionally stereotyped as non-profitable, not lucrative. They don't have a business case. That's why they have been pigeonholed and confined to public finance and concessional funding. They definitely fall short of qualifying for private finance. And that's a real issue because, as a matter of fact, we all know that public funding does not deliver on its pledges. And if it delivers, it's not enough. So it's compelling to attract private finance if we are to address the adaptation gap. This being said, my quest was, how can we get commercial banks in the region, in Africa and in the Arab region, to step in and innovate business models that prove the business case of adaptation finance. Why? Because I don't think that we can go on any longer ignoring the fact that we have around 280 million inhabitants in Africa facing starvation and drought, and I think around 50 million inhabitants in the Arab region. And the question is, what is the role of commercial banks? What's the role of commercial banks towards stepping in and addressing this gap? On the bright note, on the investable side, and according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development report on Finance for Sustainable Development 2020, the global financial system has around $379 trillion. Banks, asset managers, institutional investors, MDBs collectively have around $379 trillion. Only 1% of this figure is enough to cover the SDGs funding gap. A fraction of this 1% is enough to cover the adaptation gap. So imagine if commercial banks in the Arab region and in Africa step in to try to build bankable projects to attract this fraction of the 1% of the global assets. And that was the mandate. In COP27, CIB's first panel was titled The Business Case of Adaptation Finance, Brain Trust. Brain Trust was the new innovative model or paradigm that targets advancing the business case of adaptation finance, packaging bankable projects with revenue streams and risk-adjusted returns that would appeal to private investors. The panel went very well. And if I say, Brain Trust or our innovation has three main components: conceptual one, governance one, and an operational one. The conceptual part focuses on monetizing the environmental and social benefits. Unfortunately, we are all governed by a global system and accounting practices that fail to internalize the externalities. Meaning, it's very easy for any of us, for any bank, to prove the business case of a polluting project. But it becomes very difficult to prove that a project that cultivates, that brings potable water, that saves life, it's very difficult for us to prove it is profitable. However, if a bank has a solid and robust environmental and social risk management system and climate risk management system, then it becomes easier to assess, monitor, and demonstrate the business case of adaptation finance. It will be easier for this bank to advise its clients and demonstrate that factoring in changes in pricing, removal of subsidies, transition risks with technological advances. All these developments, if factored in, you can prove the business case of adaptation finance. You can prove that funding water desalination, water treatment could have a business case. And actually, we are all familiar with fragmented success stories across Africa. According to the World Bank, adaptation finance yields 4-to-1 benefit cost ratio, which makes it very profitable. It's not only economic profits, but environmental and social. So if you bundle these benefits, it's 4-to-1. And actually, our experience at CIB under the Green Bond, we have 18% under climate finance projects that would come under water finance, water desalination and water treatment. And they are commercial loans, they are profitable for the bank, and they have a business case for our clients when you factor in the economic, environmental, and social benefits. So yes, adaptation finance has a business case only if we develop new business models. The question is how to implement brain trust. How can commercial banks prove the business case of adaptation finance? How to monetize the environmental and social risk? Which gets us to the governance part and the operational part of this new paradigm. With regards to the governance part, banks cannot do it alone. We have the convening power to get the right ecosystem, which includes multilateral development banks, de-risking entities, technology service providers, academia, research. Every one of you is part of this ecosystem, whereby each adaptation project should have its governance mechanism. If they come together, if we connect the dots among these stakeholders, we can have a business case, we can create revenue streams and take the risk. And this brings us to the steps to be taken. It varies from how the project is designed. It's all in the design, from the concept design to its operations, to make sure it has revenue streams, and then structuring the project itself, whether it's triple P, whether it's blended finance, and then innovating the sustainable finance instruments, whether it's a green bond, a blue bond, sustainability bond, sustainability-linked loan, securitization, etc. The ESG data reporting and rating for, these steps are essential to address private investors' needs. Because at the end, we want to make sure that we have a branded adaptation finance investment proposal that really addresses investors' private finance demands, make sure risk-adjusted returns are there, revenue streams are there, robust reporting is being addressed. So it has a governance mechanism and it has an operational structure. If put together, I think we can reconceive adaptation finance and we can prove that it has a business case. If this takes place, we can establish self-sufficient, sustainable food systems, leveraging on its business case. And here, I really want to thank the Arab Water Council, because this is the viable ecosystem. Your presence, the contribution of each and everyone among the audience, the panelists, and the organizers is essential to partner with commercial banks. We cannot do it alone, and you cannot do it alone. And this has been going for a long time. And I think it's about time to get all viable stakeholders together to reach out and get the triple bottom line inherent in adaptation finance.